Okay, who's learned something so far? I didn't take a huge risk here, right? Now I'm taking a risk. I'm telling a personal story. I'm Swiss. We don't do that, okay? It's only because Sol and the BIF team gets me to do that, but I always sweat like crazy, and I always wonder why I'm doing this. But I'm going to talk about what success is for me, so it's very personal. And some of you might remember I talked about why I want my kids to fail, so I'll take a slightly different angle, but it'll be about my kids again. Maybe I just want to make myself look like a good father. Okay, so I'm very grateful that you're laughing every time. You know, the Swiss are not funny, so I try to make jokes, and well, we'll see. Okay, so success, what is it? I've always been crazy influenced by the press and how they portray success, right? We have this shiny picture of success because we only see one side of it, and we don't really think what's behind it. So many of us, I'm sure, we admire Steve Jobs and what he did, but Bob Sutton would say he falls in the asshole category, right? Think of it. Like, working for Steve Jobs was, yeah, you could be passionate, you would make the best products of your lives, but you would lose your wife, get divorced, or husband. It was terrible to work with this guy. So is that how we define success? So just think of it, right? We put that guy on a pedestal. I do. But if we look at it, in a slightly more diversified way, we can see that the way the press defines success, and some of us might be influenced by that, I am, is maybe not the right way. Okay? So for me, for a very long time, this was a thing that was on my mind. I like looking up to people who I admire. Even here, wow, all these speakers, I feel like, what the fuck am I doing with my life? Man, wow, am I wasting my time? So, there's some things I did achieve. We sold a lot of books. I got on the Thinkers 50 list, but I always want more. And I'm very competitive in that sense. I always feel like what I did so far is not enough. And there's a danger with that, because you always want to do more. You always want to do more. You're never happy. You kind of miss out on some things in life. And I'm very passionate about what I'm doing, and that's actually a risk. So maybe this way of looking at success, cover of a magazine or whatever, it's not enough. Of course, it's pretty trivial, right? But I had to learn that, and these are two guys who taught me, #1 leadership coach Marshall Goldsmith and greatest CEO of all times, Alan Mulally. They let me look at leadership and success in a different way. I had the opportunity to spend some time with them with a group of people. Alan Mulally says stuff like, you gotta love your team, you gotta love them up. As a leader, you're a facilitator, you're not a boss. And those things made me think differently about what I want to achieve in life. So if we look at success, what's the first thing you could do if you're struggling to figure out what success means to you? You go to Google, you look at a definition, and you'll see an example of success is the president had some success in restoring confidence. Okay, as a Swiss, I had to make some reference here. Right? Then I like to use Twitter, so I used Twitter and asked, okay, what does success mean to you? No bullshit. What is success? What are the criteria for you to measure success? I love this one. Makes sense, right? Makes total sense. Of course. It's not very helpful, of course, right? It's not very helpful. So then you go to TED Talks, and there's a playlist on success, so it means something to people. And there's actually one talk that I would recommend you go watch by my favorite philosopher, modern-day philosopher. I see some of you nodding, right? Alain de Botton tells us, well, look at success maybe in a gentler way, in a different way. Define for yourself what success means. Don't let yourself be defined by what others say is success. And I had to learn that. So before I tell you what I understand under success for myself, I want you to do a little exercise with your seat neighbor. Discuss for 30 seconds, how do you measure, what are the criteria that you use to measure if you're leading a successful life, okay? 30 seconds, let's go. Easy question, come on. Let's go. Okay. Okay. Let's continue together. Okay. I let you talk more, but it's my speaking time, and I do want to tell a little bit of a story. So, okay. So, what does success mean to me? What does success mean to me? It's my personal thing. You might say, I don't give a shit what it means to you, but this is my story, and it's started with this. 2 days ago, success for me was, like, how do you turn on the shower? I have a meeting in 30 minutes. Who of you has ever had this problem that you didn't figure out how to turn on a shower? That's success, right? But more seriously, a while ago, I took 2 days to reflect. It was a very deep experience for me. What did success mean to me? And it was this, 4 things. 4 things that I wanted to focus my life on, because my life was very much about what I'm passionate about, the tools, the business I'm building, and so on. Of course, I love my kids, I love my wife, but I didn't spend enough time on it, because I didn't see it as that's part of a successful life for me, to have quality time with my kids. I didn't see it as a measure. Of course, it was normal for me, but if the moment you visualize, you put it out there, it's different. You need to visualize what's important to you, then you start measuring it. And of course, I'm a bit of a process guy. I'm Swiss, right? Swiss-German, wow. So I need to visualize these things. Then there's my wife. I didn't spend enough time with her, okay? And then there's my business. I spend enough time with that, but maybe not the right way, right? Alan Mulally, love him up, okay? Take time for your team. And then there's myself. I wanted to do a little bit more sports. I'm a competitive guy. So I needed to change my environment to do something. I would never go to the gym. So I put it in my office and in my house. But I want to talk about this one here, a project that I'm working on with my kids. Because for me, it was not enough to spend time with my kids. I wanted to spend some quality time and do something that I think would be beneficial to their lives, but also to other kids' lives, and would allow them to do something that could make them proud. So we decided to work on a kids' business comic. I'll tell you the story of how that evolved. I'll show you a little video that we did for a Kickstarter campaign that we're going to launch soon. It started in fall 2016. We were on vacation, Morocco, first time surfing. Looks like we're surfers, right? It was the first time, because I took the best photo. But what I did during that vacation was I took some time to explain to my kids, what am I really doing? In a very concrete way, I said, hey, look, Daddy has this tool. It's called Business Model Canvas. I have others, but let's try to do something with this. Let's use it. So with my daughter, she was 10 at the time. I did the same thing with my son. Another time, we mapped out the business model of a toy store. Okay, so it was Malina's world-famous toy store. And it was so easy. It was seamless. She understood it right away. And obviously, if senior executives understand this, come on, my kids should understand that. But it worked. So a bit later on, I don't remember the exact moment, but I remember when we started working on it, December 2016. You see the theme here, always on vacation. We said, I asked them, let's write a book on the topic of business models for kids. And they said yes. They were excited. I thought, well, that's great. Okay, so we started working, and I had my ideas in my mind. We're going to talk about, how business models work. It's going to be conceptual, and then, what? This is boring, right? We need superheroes. Because I'll talk about superheroes in a bit. So we thought about a business comic with stories. Okay? And we did this customer profile because I didn't understand what kids want or need, so we started mapping out the customer profile of the readers. What would kids attract, what would attract them to a comic book like this? Business? Definitely not. They don't give a shit about business per se. Nobody goes to look for a business comic. But cool stories, right? Unexpected stuff. And then the educational aspect would be kind of a side effect. Okay? So I worked with them a little bit through their favorite styles. Okay? So I started to understand, what do they like in comic books? What are the things that they appreciate? We made a business model, of course. They had a lot of fun, you can see. We eventually got there. So that was our business model. And we did a couple of brainstorming sessions to figure out what kind of case studies would we work on. At lunch, I had a conversation about lemonade stands. I'm a bit of a hater of lemonade stands. I think, kids today, their passion is not lemonade stand. It might be a good way to educate, but what if we thought about, okay, if you're passionate about making software, about jewelry. What is it that you in your life as a kid might want to turn into a profession, right? So we talked about that. We did storyboards. So here you can see one where there's somebody in the woods, in front of a tree, doesn't really get it, goes to the garage, makes the, how do you call it in English? Chainsaw. Okay, that was a storyboard. I don't think we're going to put that one in the book, but who decides? My kids probably. But it also gave them an opportunity to look at the world in a different way. So we spent some time in Africa this summer, visit family, and we would think about the entrepreneurs who sell clothes in the street and what it takes. What's the business model there? How do they earn their money? Is it tough? Is it easy? How does that work? Okay? We would bring these things into the comic book. So these were the first sketches. We had a visual team working on this. We had some first superheroes from the visual team. Then my son liked it. I showed it to my wife. She said, "That's a stereotype. Come on." So yeah, of course, there's no woman there. So we put a woman there, businesswoman. She said, "No, come on." So I listened to my wife every now and then, so we started changing, and businesswoman and businessman emerged. And of course, we're going to have some better stories. And my daughter is obviously pushing also for the themes that are important for her. So we're trying to figure out what's the right style. And we want to co-create in the future, so we're going to open it up to kids from around the world. Not just parents, of course. Kids are the ones who should decide ultimately what they want. Villains, you need villains in the book. My son wanted to do a story on a surf shop. So the story, the business part was, you have this guy, he's full of himself. He makes surfboards with his head, with his picture on it. He doesn't sell any. And then come the businessman and businesswoman, tell him, maybe you want to listen to customers, right? That's one part of the business story. But then, of course, the villains, they're creating a huge super wave because the business is becoming successful and the super wave is going to kill the business. So superwoman and businesswoman and businessman come and save them. Okay, so a couple of things like that. Really fun working on that. And here, we're going to do some research with my daughter. We're going to do a business model on the Wax Museum in London. So these are the villains melting the, get it, right? So these are the first sketches. So pretty fun. We did some testing, URL testing, because it's one of the things that I want to teach my kids that, entrepreneurship and creation is not about getting everything right. You're going to make a lot of mistakes, and that's okay. That's what's part of business. That's what's part of following your passion. I talked about failure the last talk I gave, right? So we figured out this could be a good one. So we came up with a landing page. That's where we are today. We launched the landing page last week. After 2 days, we had 700 visitors, so it really took off. It was fun. But then I can show my kids, hey, look, there's some versions that work, some versions that don't work. So they're starting to learn some of these tools of modern entrepreneurship, lean startup, right? The age of 11 and 14. And I think we can give that to a broader community of kids and not wait for later on to show how that works. We're going to launch a Kickstarter campaign later on. We did some research. This is a fabulous book if you haven't seen it yet, Goodnight Stories for Rebel Girls. So that was one of the inspirations for us. And I'll show you what we came up with in this little video, and that will be kind of going towards the end of my talk. This is going to be our Kickstarter campaign. We had a lot of fun. This was the team behind it. So for my kids, it was fun to see, wow, this big team to come up with this little video. And basically, it took 10 hours to come up with a 3-minute video. And of course, they said, gee, Daddy, can we stop? Is it over soon? But it shows them that there's hard work involved to make these things work. And ultimately, they have a lot of fun doing this. And I'll show you a little video, and then I'll wrap it up.
Business is something everybody thinks is only for adults. But with my dad, my sister, and my cousins, we're gonna create an awesome business comic for kids. In the book, there are gonna be different stories that are gonna explain how companies that we all know, like YouTube or Instagram or other shops, how they work. Because almost everybody watches YouTube videos, but almost nobody knows how YouTubers make money.
The goal is to make the book really fun and entertaining for children, which means it has to be a comic book. But at the same time, I think it's really important that we give our children some business education. So to package it in a way that they learn and they have a lot of fun and it doesn't feel like, oh, this is a boring school book, I think that's the real challenge. Maybe we can talk about how a bakery works, or we can talk how somebody who's fascinated about making jewelry can start selling jewelry. So we want to make it educational, but at the same time really not feel like a school book. It should be a really fun and cool comic book. So that kind of mix is what we're trying to achieve together.
I'm gonna introduce you the team of illustrators. That is Benny.
Hi.
That is Holger.
Hi.
That is Lucas.
Hello. So it's a young lady with a smartphone. So what should she do in the book?
She traveled the world
I see.
and she posts some photo on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
She's gonna be famous on Instagram.
So the special thing about working with kids is that they will have a lot of very cool ideas and the whole team will be inspired. And I see us creating a lot of characters and villains and drawings and new universes, and it will be very difficult to decide at the end what is the final product.
Most of the time we were brainstorming about ideas we could put in the book. We also researched a bit about the companies we were going to put in the book, and we invented little stories we might use.
Her stuff that she's presenting to the audience, right?
What I also did is that I showed my friends different comic book styles, and I wanted them to tell me which comic book styles they actually liked a lot, so that I could tell the illustrators so that we could put them in the books.
We want feedback from kids, from parents, from teachers. We want to know what kinds of stories you like. We want to know what kinds of comic characters you like. Because if we just decide everything, we might get it completely wrong. So if you join the project, you can participate. You can live the same kind of adventure that we're living now, and you can give us feedback and help us develop this book.
Thank you. So to finish up, for me, success became something very different. And I like to be really good at what I do, but at the end of the day, you need to find a balance. Like, can you be world class at all those four? I'd like to be it, but I think for me, it's important to be world class at that one kind of combination that's important for me. And everything else doesn't matter. Thank you very much.